When you think about it, high-end, big, heavy, luxury SUVs have more to gain from electrification of the driveline than a lot of car categories. You get less noise, more refinement, more smoothness, and lower running costs. Makes sense. Audi knows that. That's why it invented the e-tron franchise. Now, last year, it lobbed onto the Australian market a model called the Q855. And that was the start of things, because this year they've now given us a lower entry-level model called the Q850 and this flagship car called the SQ8 e-tron. It's a lot more money, but it's a lot more car. Now, if that sounds confusing, you're right, and I'm confused too, but stay with me, pull up a chair, a cool drink, I'll talk you through it if I can. Even if it wasn't the flagship model of the Q8 lineup, the SQ8 e-tron is a high-end Audi, and that means lots of standard kit. That includes a panoramic sunroof, 22-inch alloys, matrix LED headlights, heated seats, and a monster Bang & Olufsen stereo with a total of 16 speakers. Unlike the lesser Q8 variants, the SQ8 also gives you the choice of the station wagon body called SUV or the vaguely coupe-shaped body dubbed Sportback. Options include the virtual mirrors, which replaces the normal exterior mirrors for cameras, not for everyone, the sensory package, which gains soft closed doors, a fragrance and interior ionizer, and the circus lighting, capable of projecting Audi logos from floor to ceiling. Aside from the really clever interior and the way it's laid out, there's a lot of Audiness in this car. The 22-inch wheels, the privacy glass, the way the grille looks, and now it's got things like little e-tron lights that shine on the ground, puddle lights. And I know that's not new, but other things like the headlights, when you turn the car on in the garage and the lights come on, you get a little Audi logo projected onto the wall of the garage. I don't know, money can't buy that sort of thought sometimes, and there are other car makers who just would not understand that level of detail would not compute. But that's one of the things that's always made Audis Audis. If there's one thing Audi has done well for the last couple of decades, it's interiors. This car has the latest fully customizable virtual cockpit, which sounds like a mouthful, but what it means is you can get the display to tell you anything you need to know, pretty much when you need to know it. You can set your preferences, you can have the navigation prominent, you can have a conventional looking dashboard more prominent. It's a really good setup. There's two touch screens and they both separate the different information on quite a logical basis, so that works well. The only thing I'd say is this top part of this door trim here seems like really hard, kind of, well, cheap plastic. Well, the rest of the door's quite plush, so I don't know what's going on there, but it lets the rest of the interior down, but the rest is very nice. The seats are great. The sport seats in the front really are kind of body hugging without being too firm, and of course they're heated. And even in the rear seats, where the car is really more of a four-seater than a five because of the sculpting of the rear bench, there's still plenty of leg room, and that's really important because you can get your feet under the seats. And even in the Sportback model, which has got that sort of coupe roofline, there's no shortage of headroom in the back, even for fully grown adults. Now, ordinarily, right about now, I'd open the bonnet and show you what's in there, but this time, there's no point. There is absolutely nothing of interest in there to a bloke like me, because this is an electric car, so all the good bits are hidden. The batteries are under the floor and the motors act on each axle directly. In this case though, instead of two motors, there's three. One on the front wheels and one on each of the back wheels. And that means 370 kilowatts of power and almost 1,000 Newton meters of awesomeness. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to this. Of course, what you all really want to know is what 370 kilowatts and 973 Newton meters of torque feels like. Well, let me just slow down here a bit. And yeah, that's pretty impressive. Now, look, does it feel like almost 1,000 Newton meters? No, I don't think it does. But then you realize that you're pushing 2.6 tons around. That's what this car weighs empty. So it is a big, hefty thing. Performance is effortless. It's just perhaps not quite as crazy as some electric cars that we've driven in the past. But here's the thing with this car. Until today, I had never driven a car on air suspension where the ride quality was as it should have been. I mean, and that's the point of air suspension. They do it because you can have self-leveling and you can have good ride quality. But I never yet drove a car that worked properly on air springs till today. You can punish this thing, you can punch it over railway crossings and all sorts of big potholes, and it just keeps coming back for more. Even the things that normally trip up air suspension, and that's little ripples in the road and little joins in the bitumen, this thing just annihilates them. It is really, really good. And that's in comfort. You can switch it to dynamic and the ride will firm up a little bit. It's still absolutely acceptable, and the steering will gain a little more weight. I think, for my preference, would be to leave it in comfort so I get all the ride quality and the steering is a little bit lighter to the touch. And that's the other thing about this car. If you were blindfolded and taken for a ride in it, you would probably know straight away it's an Audi. If you drove it any distance, you would also know, not with a blindfold, presumably, but you would also know because the steering and the way this thing turns into corners and stays flat is very, very much an Audi thing. It's got that Audi flavour, which is great. I mean, that's why people buy cars like this, let's be honest. Of course, one of the things that's absolutely front of mind with electric vehicles is efficiency. And this car, with its 114 kilowatt hour battery, should give you a range somewhere between 350 and 400 kilometres. To be honest, for some people that's not going to be enough. Audi doesn't seem to think it'll be a problem, but I'm inclined to think that there's a lot of people out there who would be happier with 500 or 600 kilometres of range. It's just one of those things that we've come to expect from really high-end EVs now. Certainly that would be the claim. The 28 kilowatts per 100 kilometres that this car consumes is on the high side, but when I was driving it in normal conditions today, I was getting closer to a real world 26 kilowatts per 100 kilometres. So, you know, maybe the range in this case is a lot more realistic than some of the quoted ranges of the competition cars. So, let's talk charging. Well, 114 kilowatt hour battery on a 10 amp household power point like you'd have in your garage at home, this thing's going to take all night and then some to charge. You can get a 22 kilowatt wall unit that will charge faster than that, at least twice as fast. But if you're in a hurry, commercial charging station with a DC power supply is your friend. This car will cop up to 170 kilowatt charging, which means you can go from about 10% to about 80% in about half an hour. And that's not too bad.
No surprises on the safety front. The SQ8 e-tron is absolutely bristling with tech to keep you safe. That includes autonomous emergency braking that can also spot cyclists and pedestrians, as well as assistance programs for everything from lane keeping to rear cross traffic and everything in between. There's also a 360-degree camera view and onboard tyre pressure monitoring. Audi offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty on the basic SQ8 e-tron package with an 8-year 160,000 kilometre warranty on the high voltage battery. You also get a 6-year subscription for ChargeFox charging, the same amount of roadside assistance, and even the first 6 years of servicing are on Audi. Service intervals are every 2 years or 30,000 kilometres, backing up the theory that electric vehicles require less maintenance.
At the end of the day, the value of this car to a buyer or a potential buyer is, will it do what I want it to do? I think it's a little bit shy on range for some buyers. I think though that the performance is more than adequate, and the ride quality and the way it handles is probably class leading stuff. So it's going to win a lot of friends there. So as with anything like this, yeah, it's price versus reward. And if you feel like rewarding yourself with a big, heavy, high-end SUV, well, you'd have to have this thing on your shortlist. It may well be the pick of the crop.